Hello, hello, family. Rise. I hope you guys are having a wonderful, wonderful day today. I am Afiya Imara Rise, your hostess, and today we are here once again for our Q&A, which basically is an opportunity to vet me as a life coach, also an opportunity to get your questions answered without having to put yourself through any type of financial stress or strain, and you can just get your question answered and we can do this in real time. I'm really excited because I'm actually going to start doing another segment to this Q&A for people that want to be an example, or for people who are really transparent and just open with their experience. Every Sunday, I will choose someone who is willing to actually have a coaching session live. We'll be on for an hour and we'll do a full-blown coaching session, me as the coach, them as the client, and you guys will get to see how I navigate certain issues or situations, and you guys will have a better insight as to how I move as a life coach. This also will enable clients to potentially get their coaching for free because it will be live. If you want your coaching in private, all you have to do is DM me and I will go over the price list at that time. But this is a really dope way to get a coaching session and not have any cost to you whatsoever. So I'm going to be starting that probably next week. So not this upcoming Sunday, but the following Sunday. I just need to get a couple things in order. And I'm really, really excited about that opportunity. So please get ready for that. But tonight, we will be on here for an hour. I will be getting off at about 8:30 Eastern time. For now, the rules are as follows. Hello, Miss Teresa. Good to see you. The rules are as follows. You can ask any question that you would like as long as they are pertaining to you and yours. And when I say you and yours, I mean your family, your husband and or wife, your children, your work, your goals, your dreams, your healing, your trauma, your spirituality, your goals, your discipline, or lack thereof, however you would like to look at it. As long as it's not pertaining to me, you can go ahead and put the question on the floor, and I will do my best to arrive at a conclusion or an answer for you and with you. I really, really enjoy what I do, you guys, and my focus is primarily the uplift and drive and development of women. So typically, my platform consists mostly of women, but the divine masculine is more than welcome to participate in these conversations because we can only get so far without the other half. Some insight is necessary for women to have an understanding of relationships, of communication, because we don't exist in relationships or conduct communication just with ourselves. So we definitely do need that extra 2 cents to give us some perspective. So all perspectives are welcome. At your earliest convenience, you are more than welcome to go ahead and put your questions into the comment section, no matter which platform you are on, Facebook, YouTube. And I do apologize, but I know that Instagram, for some reason, I can stream there, but they can't participate as far as the comments are concerned. So I do apologize for that inconvenience, but you're more than welcome to come over to Facebook or come over to YouTube, and you can find us at Roots and Rebirth with Afiya Imara Rise. I appreciate you guys coming over. And we can start as early as the first question. In the meantime, some announcements. As I stated, not this Sunday, but the following Sunday coming up, we'll be starting a coaching session live. This will allow clients the opportunity to be coached with no cost to them. And of course, it will be on a live setting, so people will be able to tune in and get an idea for how I work as a life coach. I also want to extend my gratitude to all three platforms if you are tagging and sharing and participating in these conversations, because your participation is greatly appreciated. Please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button so you know every time that we're live. And please share and subscribe. You guys know what to do to show any additional love. If there are any badges or stars applicable or super chats applicable, you are more than welcome to send those as well, but that is not an obligation. I am here to relay information, to translate, to clarify anything that I can do to make sure the information is received. I label myself, if I was going to label myself, a bridge builder. My job is to connect one place to another. And I try my best to do that to the best of my ability. Outside of that, there are some projects that are underway. You guys have been writing. So hopefully at the latest, I'm thinking like August, I'll be releasing a book or two. I don't know how many, so I'm not going to speak prematurely, but I have some projects in the works I'm really excited about. So I'm thinking August will be the release month. That would be amazing to be able to get that done by then. Also, I'm transforming my Facebook page. It's going to be a lot more interactive and a lot more, not indirect, but for a lack of better words, the way that I go about teaching is going to change and mesh a lot more with my personal creativity, just so we can have a little bit more fun with the conversations. I will try my best to include some of that content on Instagram and YouTube, just to get a feel for you guys and how you guys like the new content. And you guys let me know what you think in the comments. Of course, positive feedback means that you'll see everything a lot more often, and we'll just play it by ear from there. I did get a question in my DMs, which you guys can do that as well if you don't necessarily want to identify as the source of the question. So I'm going to read that out. Give me 1 second to pull that back up. It actually got sent to me before I went live. Good evening, Teresa. Thank you so much. How does one know that they've met the one? Very interesting, right? I actually love that question because it sounds so simple and yet so complex. Honestly, my perspective of the one is not necessarily what you would expect my perspective would be, because the person who is the one is actually your choice. It's not a situation to where this person just exists and they're meant for you. Like, I don't necessarily share that perspective. And the reason why that is because the truth is this person is going to encourage you to grow. This person is going to make you uncomfortable. This person is going to make you want to rebel. And this person is going to make you feel controlled, changed, sometimes manipulated, sometimes flustered and aggravated, because they are typically a person that is good for you in romantic relationship. They trigger you more than you've ever been triggered. And the reason is because what we don't realize is there are 3 major spaces of growth within your life. One of those is, of course, when you're born. When you come into this world, you are beginning to be shaped and cultivated. And then when you find the person that you believe to be the love of your life, they're going to change you even more. And when you have a child, those 3 instances, you are never the same after as you were before. And for good reason. When you're born, you start cultivating your relationships. At the end of the day, they are your first impressions, essentially. So when you have your relationship with your mom, you learn about relationships with women. You learn about femininity. You learn about softness. You learn about nurture and how you relate to those experiences. And if it's a good experience, then that fosters pretty much good relationships throughout your life. If it's negative, you will likely follow that same heading, um, as far as how you get along with women throughout the duration. The same is true when it comes to the relationship with your father. If you had a negative relationship with your father, how you trust, how you depend, all those things are affected for the long haul. So when we talk about how do you know if a person is the one, when that person comes into your life, typically they remind you of your last growth spurt. And if you haven't already had a child, the last, or your first growth spurt, I should say, because the one with your child is not necessarily relevant in this conversation, though it is paramount in your growth. Um, so if you're a man, the love of your life will remind you a lot of the interactions with women throughout your childhood, and might even remind you of some interactions with your father. But typically, it's with the opposite gender. Same is true if you're a girl with her father. Um, and these things will be unearthed in your romantic relationship. So, what we determine the one to mean is when we have a fluid, productive, positive relationship with a romantic partner. And that's how we typically determine that person is the one. We get along, we have stuff in common, everything's positive, positive, positive. But the truth is, what truly determines your ability to be harmonic is what happens in the negative times. And not just what happens, as in, arguments and so on and so forth, but are you able to grow with each other? Are you able to resist one another? And when I say resist, I mean like having different perspectives, being conflict, being chaos. And so how you determine the one greatly relates to your relationship with men, your relationship with women. Typically, if you didn't have a positive relationship with your father, it's going to be hard to connect with men. The same is true with women dealing with men. So you could have met the one, but they triggered you when you fell in love with them and you ran, or they triggered you and you shut down. They triggered you and you didn't want to grow. They triggered you and you put a wall up. You got defensive. You see what I'm saying? So we're not always capable of determining when we have come across the one. And that's the misconception when you're an adult and you're traveling through your everyday life. We think if we have a type, if we know what we like and what we don't like, that we can hold the person that we're dating to this structure, to this outline, when in reality, that fate or the universe or God, whatever it is that you believe in, they know what's best for you better than you know what's best for you, because we have a tendency to gravitate towards what keeps us comfortable. And what's best in your life is not necessarily what keeps you comfortable. More often than not, it's actually the thing that pushes you into discomfort that is the best for you in the long haul. But we tend to pick what's comfortable, the things that enable us, the things that lie to us, the things that tell us what we want to hear, essentially. While those things feel the best, they often incapacitate us and cripple us, and we lack confidence, we lack ambition, we lack all the things that we would have in our arsenal had we recognized love with discomfort as opposed to um, comfort. You see what I'm saying? So when we talk about the one, you have to first understand that everything's not all peaches and cream. You have to first understand that the person who's the one is going to unearth things that you've been running from most of your life. And it's going to be hard to solidify that person being the one, because they're also the source of your greatest pain. They're also the person who unearths your trauma. They're also the person who gets up under your skin the most. You see what I'm saying? So there's so much more to it, and we write about it on, Hallmark cards and all of that, like it is the simplest thing. Oh, I love you and you love me, so we're meant to be. That's it. It's never that simple. It's never that simple. So knowing the one is more based off of your determination to persevere despite what's being presented to you. And then they're willing to do the same with you as well. And the one is something you solidify over a long period of time. It's not just something that you look at them and they look at you and you guys activate oxytocin in each other. So you're like, this is it, end all be all. A lot of times we can maintain a solid relationship for a long period of time as long as nothing goes wrong. But then soon as your relationship is tested, the relationship falls apart. That's why when somebody goes broke, relationships fall apart. When children get born, relationships fall apart, because these are challenges. These things are strains that develop on the relationship. And when you think that you're in a good relationship just because things are going good, you learn what the relationship is truly based on when you run into a challenge, which is somebody losing their job, someone passing away, having an unexpected child, realizing you guys have two different religious practices, realizing that the way you want to live your life is different than the way that they want to live their life. Those things will bring a relationship to a head, because that's just how it works. And I don't even want to say that's just how it works, because saying stuff like that doesn't really explain anything, but you have to think about it in this context. Iron sharpens iron. Why is that? Iron sharpens iron because of the friction of the clash of the two blades. That's why iron sharpens iron, because of friction. So friction creates sharpness. We use this phrase a lot without realizing what it means. That means when you have your homeboys, when you got your homegirls, when you're in a romantic relationship, when you have your bestie, friction creates sharpness. So friction is what builds relationships. If you have no friction, you're not building. You're essentially walking parallel to each other. And that's why when you have your first baby, when someone loses their job, that's the first test of friction. So if you've been friends for a really long time, and then all of a sudden both you guys like the same guy, friction. Now you guys have to determine that you can maintain your friendship despite the friction. Most people cannot. You see what I'm saying? You get along because everything goes your way, and then all of a sudden you guys find out you're pregnant. Now all of a sudden friction. Now you're realizing you're going to make different decisions than I would make for the child. You want to live in a different place than I want to live. You want to do this and I want to do that. You know what I mean? And it's persevering past that determines oneness, wholeness. So iron sharpens iron, true enough, but that also exists in romantic relationships. Not having friction does not stimulate growth. It actually creates complacency. Anybody can exist in a long-term relationship where there's been no friction, because there's essentially no challenge. There's no push outside your comfort zone. There's no development. There's no evolution. You know what I mean? And when two people are consistently evolving, their minds are consistently being sharpened, you're going to have friction, because both minds are not going to develop their wants and needs and goals and all of these things in the same exact manner at the same exact time in the same exact direction. So it's implied friction will exist. And if friction exists, you have the the option for two things to develop. You will either sharpen one another or you will chip one another. And that's the outcome. You see what I'm saying? So oneness is determined by your will. Oneness is determined by your commitment. Oneness is determined by your resilience and your perseverance. It is not determined by how well you cannot go through anything. You see what I'm saying? Even though contrary to popular belief, that's what we assume, that if you don't look like you've been through anything, that's an ideal situation. You see what I'm saying? When in reality, it implies a, a different set of issues than it does if you're actually having issues, because having the issues is actually what's normal because you're two different people. You see what I'm saying? Let me go back. Hello, Terry. What's going on? Thank you so much for the copyright disclaimer and the Fair Use Act. I appreciate that. Hello, Miss Morgan. How you doing today, love? Hello, Carlene. Thank you so much. Hi, Kanya. I appreciate the quote. Thank you, Carlene, especially with age difference. Absolutely. Absolutely. You guys come from two different places. You're at two different spaces in your journey, or two different times in your journey, all of those things. And that's what's what's kind of crazy is that the biggest thing when people are like, we always argue, we'll never see things the same. And that perspective, that when we express that, it sounds like you're dealing with something that is completely not ideal. You know what I mean? Completely out of the way and just anti-harmony. And that's because how we have taught society and camaraderie and harmonic, or displays of harmony, should I say, it looks like where friction is absent, when in reality, where friction is absent, no one grows, no one evolves, no one develops. And this is with anybody, like even in a teacher-student setting, it's children consistently raising their hand. I have another question. Well, I don't understand. Well, how does that mean that? And that doesn't make sense. That keeps the teacher sharp and capable to answer questions exactly where the students are. Otherwise, the teacher will get bored with their own teaching because they're not being invigorated. They're not being stimulated mentally. So even a student that lacks knowledge can stimulate a teacher just by pressing through inquiry and saying, you're saying that this equation equals this answer, but that doesn't make sense. They're forcing the teacher to reiterate and demonstrate their argument, and they're finding better ways to teach, to make sure that particular student can absorb the information. You see what I'm saying? So iron sharpens iron is not exclusive to an authority versus a subordinate, or it's only possible between peers. It's only possible between adults. A parent can learn from their child. You see what I'm saying? Because we all create questions and inquiries, and we all create resistance. All of these things force a person to use their mind and for their wills to turn. So you don't have to have the answer. You don't have to have the wisdom and the knowledge to create friction. All you have to do is press back. When someone says this is, you need to do this, and you turn around and you say, why? Just that quick friction is created, because if this person has told you you need to do XYZ, but they have not thought about the why in it, you have now pushed them to think. Even if they have the answer, if they didn't think you were capable of asking why, now they have to go back into their mind and formulate a response. There's still friction there because now your brain is being pressed to work in a way that you didn't expect. This is healthy. This helps your brain exercise. This helps you think in a constructive manner. This helps you maintain being logical. It also builds your confidence. So when you're having a conversation and someone doesn't understand what you're saying, or they doubt what you're saying, then you get the mental exercise to stand on what you think, stand on how you feel, and back it with your expression, back it with your facts, back it with your truth, and reiterate it if it needs to be reiterated. All of these things are mental and emotional exercises that are paramount to good communication. Because if these things are not going on, that's where defensiveness and deflection and manipulation and lying and all of those things come from, because they haven't done enough mental exercise. They get afraid, they get triggered, they resort to coping mechanisms, they run, you know what I mean? They defend. They do all of these things simply because they're out of practice. No one has been sharpening them. That's why you can deal with an adult and then have a simple conversation with them, and they're doing all of this nonsense that reflects the experience of a child, because you have now revealed an area of them where they're not developed. So the iron sharpens iron phenomena is very much a useful method. We're not doing each other favors by watching out for each other's feelings. Don't get me wrong. Don't deliberately and in a blunt and tactless manner hurt someone's feelings, but that doesn't mean withhold the truth, withhold your experience, withhold conveying your experience, because it's within your experience that other people get to develop, they get to grow, they get to understand, they get to practice their emotional intelligence, their intelligence overall, their emotional capability, their mental fortitude. All of these things are necessary. This isn't something that just happens while you're with your parents, because your parents are going to play by a certain set of rules. They don't want to hurt you. They don't want to do this. They don't want to create that. That's why when you get out into the world, things start emotionally happening to you that you didn't even know existed. And they trigger you in a profound way, because they don't have the experience, and they're expecting everything to continue to be catered to them. They're expecting to still have an entitled experience reflecting that of when they were at home with their parents. You see what I'm saying? And that's why life is a better situation, because it is going to give you the practice that's necessary for you to be more resilient, for you to be more understanding, have more wisdom, be more empathetic, and all these different things. You know what I mean? And they're going to do it for you in a way that your parents won't, because they're afraid of hurting you, afraid of severing the relationship, and the things that parents tend to run from because they love you so much. You see what I'm saying? Let me go back and read this. Kanya says Deuteronomy 7:4, King James Version. For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. I shared that scripture to build on what you answered to build on the answer to the question. Thank you so much. I tell a lot of my mom and my dad on both sides of my family as to why I react to them in the ways that I have. Don't pay attention if you see any trolls. Don't allow them to take control over your ability to be or feel distracted. Unfortunately, they will be here. Let me see. They're not. I don't see any reactions. Kanya, don't pay them any attention. I haven't seen any other comments that I need to be aware of. I don't know why they're not showing up for me, but you can see them. But I don't see anything that that's causing me concern at this time. But so iron sharpening iron is a much needed aspect of life, and you can quickly tell when you've come across someone that has not been privileged enough to experience that phenomena, because everything is personal. Everything is a result of victimization. Everything is a result of, you know what I mean, somebody else being at fault. Like those type of individuals have not had a lot of exposure to the iron sharpens iron phenomena. Those people are easily triggered. Everything is about them. Everything is a sensitive topic. And, just the perspective and the demonstration alone proves a severe lack of maturity or development in that area in particular. And this is how you know the difference between a mature individual versus an immature individual, because when we're having a conversation, let's say, and one person is telling you what it is, and you're arguing with them to tell them that it's not what it is. You only have one option when a person tells you what it is, or two. You believe them or you don't believe them. Neither one requires an argument. If they're telling you what it is and you don't believe that fact, then don't believe them. There's nothing that you need to say back to them to make them prove anything, a back and forth, anything of that nature. You know what you think. But the reason why we do such things is because the person that does not believe you wants to make you look like you're not intelligent. So they want to make you feel small. Because if they're telling you this is what it is, and in your mind you think that you know better, you're going to try to prove your point. But in trying to do so, you actually embarrass yourself, because you're working hard to prove a point that is not yours. Why? If they tell you this is what it is, give them that. And if you don't believe them, then leave it where it is. The act of trying to convince them that their opinion, their experience, their reasons why or why not is not what they're telling you it is a waste of your energy, because you will never get inside their head to verify the truth. Only thing you can do is take what they're saying and take it at face value, or don't pick it up at all. So the third category is a person that will try and argue with you about, like, you're just trying to do this, or you're just trying to say that. And they're like, no, this is what I'm trying to do. No, that's not. This is what you're trying to do. It's a waste of energy to exhaust that, and that's when a person is trying to perhaps even gaslight. That's an opportunity to do that, because the person that's not trying to gaslight you is going to take you at what you said. There's no legitimate reason to argue about that. It's just a waste of time. Hello, Miss Jennifer. How you doing today? Hello, Artemis. How are you doing today? So the iron sharpens iron phenomena is a useful tool, not just for helping elevate yourself and helping to elevate others, but also your discernment as to the maturity and understanding the mental capability of others around you. Not for you to capitalize and make yourself feel superior, but so when you're having a meaningful conversation, you can meet them exactly where they are. Greetings to everybody. We'll be online for another 30 minutes. This is officially Q&A. I just answered my first question from my DMs on Instagram, and I kind of drug it out a little bit because I didn't see any other questions. But this is the opportunity for you to ask a question in regard to whatever you see fit. I am, Jennifer. Thank you. I'm doing wonderful, and I hope you're doing wonderful as well. But this is an opportunity to get your questions answered. This is an opportunity to vet me as a life coach, and just share some insight and have a great build. So again, we have about 25 minutes left in our discussion today. So you're more than welcome to add your questions into the comment section. Again, please like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification button so you are aware next time we go live. And I appreciate you guys being here. And I think it's amazing that you guys are contributing to this conversation in such a positive manner. I greatly appreciate it. And again, you guys are more than welcome to put your questions into the chat at your earliest convenience. I'm going to see if I could find anything else, because we tend to have people sending me messages, but they're not putting them in the chat. So I'm looking. All right. Apologies, you guys. I have one more. This might be the last one from Instagram. Let me pull that back up. I closed it, looking other places. All right, and I'm gonna do this one too from Miss Jennifer. How do you find out your life's purpose, especially if it's not what you thought it was? Woo! I actually really love this question. I feel like I get asked something similar maybe every other live, but for me personally, I am a spiritual person. I'm a non-religious person. So for me, my practice is in signs. I practice wholeheartedly that everything unfolds in front of you and comes to you for your recognition and acknowledgement every moment of the day. So I would say, and this is my advice to you all, if you don't know what your purpose is and you are curious about what your purpose is, people in general gravitate towards light. They can't help it. They don't even know they're doing it. So that's what makes it more truth than anything. You don't have to worry about somebody trying to stroke your ego, because people naturally gravitate towards things that are radiating positive energy. So I would first write down the thing that you get complimented on the most, and write down in a separate column the things that you get complimented on the most that people project a career onto. So it's one thing when people say, "You are so well spoken. You are so beautiful," right? So you write down, "You're so well spoken. You're so beautiful," right? In one column. But then you have another column where people say, "You are so well spoken. You should be a counselor. You are so well spoken. Have you ever thought about motivational speaking? You are so beautiful. Have you thought about modeling?" You see what I'm saying? That's not the same thing. So both parties are recognizing your light, but the ones that attach your light to a specific career, they've envisioned it. You see what I'm saying? So listen to the vision. Both of those are a compliment. So still write it down, because you may find that your purpose is connected to this observation and not necessarily to the career that keeps being mentioned. But if you keep hearing the same thing over and over and over, and it's getting crazy repetitive, you're likely looking at your purpose. For me, growing up, that's all I heard. "You're so well spoken. Have you ever thought about motivational speaking? Have you ever thought about being a psychologist? Have you ever thought about being a therapist?" And I used to make faces at them people like, "I'm not doing that. Why would I want to do that?" And at the time, I couldn't see a reason. In my mind, it was like, I've never even considered such a thing. So I thought they were crazy. But I've heard that those same compliments since I was a kid. And at the time, I was pursuing doing hair. So in my mind, I already knew what I was going to do. So I thought it was funny that you said, especially if it's not what you thought it was. I was in that space when I was a teenager and in my early 20s. I just knew I was doing hair, honey. I was like, I'm getting ready to be a hairstylist. Like, you ever thought about being a psychologist? Girl, no. Ain't nobody going. What? I am not going to school for the rest of my life when I could go get my license in the next some odd months and get to work. And to me, I didn't understand it. But now that I'm older and I ended up finding life coaching and teaching anyway, as I started getting closer to it, before I actually claimed it as my purpose, I started realizing that life kept rearranging me. I was chasing things and it will fall by the wayside. Then I would chase something else and it will fall by the wayside. And that was the universe's way of shutting doors in my face. Like, girl, I told you you're gonna be a teacher. Shut the door. Okay. So you're gonna be a cosmetologist? No, I said you're gonna be a teacher. Oh, so you just gonna go back to school for barbering? Oh, so you're gonna be a barber now? No, I said you're gonna be a teacher. you know and I laughed about it in hindsight later on, because I was just kind of in a place like, what if I was designing purpose for people? And I grabbed a hold of this wonderful girl who I thought had a big voice, and she could really impact the world with this voice. But instead of using this voice, she'd rather do hair. I would cause the school to close. I make her car break down. I make her lose her job. And this old determined human being kept going back to school, kept re-enrolling, going to fix her car, going back and going back and going back. And it just kept escalating and escalating and escalating. I was a very determined person. Like, when I want something, nothing is going to stand in my way. But the whole time I'm going through this journey, I'm chasing hair and chasing barbering and chasing all these things that I'm sure I want to do. And people are doting on me with, you should be a motivational speaker. Have you ever thought about being a teacher? Have you ever thought about being a counselor? You should be a therapist. Oh my gosh, you are so articulate. Oh my gosh, you are so intelligent. Oh my gosh, you are so smart. And I'm over here like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I'm getting ready to do hair. I'm getting ready to do hair. I'm doing hair. And the time came when I realized I didn't want to do hair. And it hit me that what I loved about hair was the interaction between myself and people, my clients. And hair was just a way to keep my hands busy while I was teaching. All my jobs were customer service jobs, and I ended up learning so much about the people, to the point to where when they came in, oh, how you doing? What's going on? How was your husband's surgery? Oh my gosh, how you doing? Oh, tell your son happy birthday. And that made me a good hostess. That made me a good person for interacting with the public. And so I didn't realize until later that my purpose was being spoken over me every day since I was a kid. And I blew them off for about 10, 15 years. So potentially, if I would have knew that my life worked in signs and manifestation of those signs, then if I understood that, I could potentially have been in this career for almost 20 years now, as opposed to 5. And so I keep hearing I should be a motivational speaker, and I should write a book of my story. I keep hearing that. I thought my purpose was being a doctor, but now that is gone for all intents and purpose. And listen, I think that I think that the truth, it is what it is. And like I said, my journey was hard. Like, I chased hair. I just knew that was what I wanted to do. And I didn't turn to teaching until my body was riddled with so much pain that I didn't have a choice. And my logic was, if I was the creator, if I was the universe, if I was God, and I had this beautiful human being and I wanted them to serve the purpose I put them here for, but they kept intending on doing something else because they hadn't seen themselves in that manifestation yet, what would I do? I take their job from them. I take their car from them. I ended up experiencing an injury, and I still went back. It wasn't until universe said to me, you know what? This is just a stubborn woman here. What is the one thing that this woman is afraid of? What is the one thing that'll snap her out of focusing on what she wants to do and listen to where I'm trying to direct her? That was when I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And my biggest fear, I fear nothing in this world, but my biggest fear was having an outcome similar to my mom. She had multiple sclerosis. So to me, that was the one thing that could take me down, you know? And I learned in getting well after my diagnosis that my flaw was not taking care of myself, putting other people ahead of myself, being in service of the people around me. And once I got my diagnosis, I had to learn that I had to focus on myself first. And in focusing on myself first, I had to learn what I love. When I was younger, I chased hair because I felt like it was the easiest way to get in and out of school and get quick to making some money so I can contribute to my family, because I had to grow up fast. I had a lot of family and financial obligations very young. So I was being practical by um, chasing hair. It wasn't me chasing something that I longed for, something that completed me, something that I desired, something that fulfilled me. I chased it because I was good at it and I wouldn't have to spend a long time in school. I was being logical. I was trying to hurry up and get my certificate so I can start contributing to helping my household. So in my mind, what I was doing was sound, was reasonable. But throughout that whole time that I was chasing it, people were saying, this is what I think of you. This is where I see you. This is my envision. This is what I vision, I envision for you. And I kept ignoring those people. And it wasn't until I found myself physically unable to do what I saw myself doing that I had to sit with myself and go, well, what else do I do? And I realized the entire time I've been a writer, I've been a poet. I was doing that on the back end just to release negative energy from my body. I was pouring my heart into music. I was pouring my heart into writing. I was pouring my heart into, and I didn't realize I was the friend that people called for advice. And giving them advice somehow dissipated whatever was going on with me at the time. But the light bulb never went off to connect the dots between the compliments I was receiving and what I was actually doing day in and day out to replenish where I was emotionally. And so, again, when I found myself and got myself back in alignment and started focusing on what I need, not what I need to do to be more capable for others, but what I need, what satisfies my body, what keeps me well, what keeps me happy, what keeps me prosperous, I found teaching. And I realized that the source of that has been with me my entire life. I just never looked at it as a source of generating revenue. I looked at it as something that was an expression of my character. So I never dissected the gift as something that could pour back into me and replenish me. To me, it was just, that's just who I am. I'm really good at giving people advice. You know what I mean? I never really looked at that as a gift until I really unpacked my experience in life. And then once I unpacked it and I decided I'm going to teach. And I'm like, I want to go to school for psychology. I started looking at that for a little while. And then I was like, you know what? No, because if I go to school and go to school for psychology, they're going to make me follow their rules when I teach. I want to follow my rules when I teach. So I started Googling, like, is there any way I could technically be something like a psychologist, but not have to spend all these years in school and then approach teaching the way I want to approach teaching? And life coaching popped up. I did a little research and I said, you know what? I can do that. I think I have everything. I have what it takes to be able to do that. And it's been the most life fulfilling thing ever since. But I was able to piece together that it was a part of my life this entire time. And the only thing that hurts me sometimes when I think about it is that it was right in my face the whole time. I burned so many years of my expertise um, chasing something else, being in survival mode, those sorts of things. But I'm grateful. I arrived when I needed to arrive, when I was mature enough to transition. And in a sense, I have been doing it my entire life. It just was never for the purpose of healing, or it was never for the purpose of, you know, pouring back into myself. But I was cultivating and teaching myself through experience, through interacting with people, through learning about people. And even though I'm not looking at it in the same context from then to now, my interactions all the way up until now is what makes me so good at what I do now, because I was inquisitive. I always could strike up a conversation. I was empathetic. I was always open and non-critical and non-judgmental. I always accepted why people do the things that they do. I never tried to change who they are in the process. So when I teach these interactions now, I can see the error in how we process things and how we accuse and how we do all these different things, because I was watching all those years. Even though I didn't know I was pouring into my career, everything that I watched, I learned from, and I'm able to utilize as experience today. So it wasn't a waste of time in the sense of I could have been a life coach for 20 years now. Um, it actually poured into my expertise in the best of ways. So it happened the way it needed to happen. Sometimes I have regrets for how it happened, because I could be so far, so far ahead of where I am now. And when I say I have all my life experience as opposed to 5 years, people think that's something dishonest. But when they hear my story, they would know otherwise. I've just been actively and built my business 5 years ago, but I've been proficient mentally and emotionally and engaging with people my whole life. So when you're looking for your purpose, listen for the people that speak life over you and they speak vision over you, because they can't help but tell you the truth of what they see. Take those things in, under consideration, because they're genuinely being swept forward in time to see what you potentially could be capable of. Yes, ma'am. Makes sense. I'm glad you no longer put yourself last. Yeah, me too. You don't realize it's unhealthy until you identify it. Did you ever fear when starting out? No, not really. I think if I had a fear, it was the process of not initiating, but like, for example, my platform is online. I I had a issue with people looking at me. Like I would post my comments and type it out and long, key out everything I had to say. My posts were always without a visual when I first started, because I didn't want people looking at me. So um I really have a behind the scenes type energy. I still have a little bit of an issue with that. I've never been on stage and talked to a crowd of people, and just the thought about it gives me anxiety. So if there is any type of fear, it's more associated with I don't like the idea of being in front of a crowd, because something about it, that idea of being raised above the rest of the people, I don't like. To me, it seems inappropriate. I'm way more comfortable being on the same level with other people. I could have a conversation in that context all day. But the minute that they try and elevate me above everyone else that I'm around, all of a sudden nothing will come out. Like it's not even just nerves. Like my voice won't even show up. And I think that something about it is very honest, because I don't like the limelight. I don't like the feeling of people trying to put me in a superior context, because I don't view myself in that way. I view myself as educated. I view myself as having a lot of knowledge and wisdom, but I also view myself as amongst people. I'm still uh growing. I'm still developing. I'm still learning about myself. I'm still doing all the things that everyone else is doing. Me having expertise in a particular area does not raise me above the people around me. And I don't like the imagery and the symbolism behind doing that. So I never wanted to be on stage. And so something about that and putting myself on video took some time. And but even in that context, I realized that the areas where I shine, whether it be dancing, my poetry, teaching, if I excel the way that I'm capable of excelling in any one of those areas of my gifts, each one of them will lead me to the stage, which annoyed the mess out of me when I realized. And I probably was about 23, and I was just like, there's literally, and I remember putting my head down going like, there's literally no way out of this. Like, I don't want to be on stage. I promise you I don't. And I kept running into different experiences that would take me straight to the stage, and I would turn around and walk in the opposite direction. I had an opportunity to be a part of a group, a singing group that was already, had a hit single. And I was like, no, thank you. Not interested. And I ended up at another door that was going to take me right to the stage. It wasn't until I ran into life coaching that I actually decided to open the door. And I think that's what happens to all of us, is that if the layout is not exactly what we pictured ourselves doing, we'll turn around and walk away, or we'll run away from it, or we'll make reason why we're not doing it. And if it's your fate, if it's your purpose, if that's the reason for you coming into manifestation, you will keep coming back to that door. And eventually the door will show up, and you are exactly in the emotional, mental, and spiritual state that you're supposed to be to actually see the door and want to walk through it. But the door is not going to stop showing up. It's going to continue to pop up in front of you, because that's where you're supposed to go. There's no way out of that. You know what I mean? It seems so natural for you. And it is, because it's been with me my whole life. Like, my voice is the thing that was nurtured in me since I was a kid. I've had conversation. I can get on the phone right now and call my nana, and we'll be on the phone for 3 hours, and we'll have to designate like, okay, we're getting off the phone. I'm like that with my dad. I'm like that with my brother. Like, we can talk. So talking is my comfort zone. Sharing my thoughts is my comfort zone, because that was nurtured in me when I was a child. So your purpose will also likely be connected to the area where you allowed yourself to shine, allowed yourself to feel free, allowed yourself to breathe, allowed yourself to find peace, where you found solace. So like when I have clients and they're asking me about purpose, I ask them, I said, when you're stressed and out of your mind, when you're lost and you don't have anywhere to go, when you need somewhere to cry, where do you go? For me, I would sing. For me, I would write. My book, I've written so many poems and written so many of my thoughts down. I would teach and minister to myself. And so we don't realize it, but your purpose has been with you the whole time. You just may not recognize it as something that's purposeful, because you're comparing your walk of life with the walk of life with the people that are walking next to you, beside you, and with you. You see what I'm saying? It wasn't time. You appreciate your learning experience. Absolutely. Thank you so much for answering the question. I definitely understand why. I really love to teach other kids, write books, research, observe, study patterns and human behavior, help people, but I never even shared that with anyone. When asked what I wanted to do after high school, I said I wanted to be a hairdresser. Exactly, Carlene, but you have to think about it. Like, even in my moment, it was in a moment of, like I said, survival mode. So you have to ask yourself, you have your practical mind, and then you have your creative mind. Your purpose is in alignment with your creative mind, not your practical mind. Your practical mind is going to your practical mind is going to be rational, but your creative mind doesn't care how much it costs, doesn't care how much practice you need to get in, doesn't care about what people think about it. You just know you love it. You see what I'm saying? Purpose will always come from your creative mind. When you're being practical, you're like, this is how much money I could make. I could afford to do this. So when you decide to do something, if you're in your practical mind, it's likely it's going to be short-lived, because you weren't in your creativity with it. You weren't in your dreams, you weren't in your fantasies, you weren't in your the foundation of your creative juices when you imagine that thing. That's why I say, where do you go? Where do you go when you feel lost? Where do you go when you need to give yourself peace? Where do you go when you shut the world out and it's just you and the mic? It's just you and the pen and pad. It's just you and your rollers and shears. It's just you and a spatula. You see what I'm saying? There's a moment when you need to shut everything else out. And no matter how hurt you are, how angry you are, how lost you feel, how sad you feel, this thing gives you some sense of alignment. And you can literally close yourself off into a bubble all by your lonesome and feel like everything's right in the world. Your purpose is in association with that. So if you say, the place I go is in the studio and I get on the mic, that doesn't mean you're meant to be a singer. That doesn't mean you're meant to be a rapper, but you might turn out to be a songwriter for other people. You may be somebody who discovers talent. You see what I'm saying? That's why I say it's associated with where you tap in. You might turn to a pen and pad. You might be a best-selling author. You also might be an editor. You also might be somebody who publishes books for other people. It's something associated with writing. Just because you turn to cooking does not mean that you're going to cook for a living. You might just write down a cookbook and sell millions. You see what I'm saying? So it's associated with the place that you go to unplug, essentially. So that's the key. That's the question. Where do you go? Do you pick up a mic? Do you pick up a pen and pad? Do you pick up a spatula? Do you start cleaning the house? What is the thing that you do to release the tension in your body when you need it gone? Most people aren't running to be a doctor. Most people aren't running to be a hairdresser. Most people aren't running to go do construction when they're stressed. You see what I'm saying? They paint, they draw, they write poetry, they cook, they sing. You see what I'm saying? It's always in connection with your creative self. You will always find your purpose there. But you have to remember to convince yourself that it's not about whether you think you can find a career connected to that thing. Identify it first. Identify it first. Because just because you can't come up with the thing that connects with what you like to do doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Doesn't mean that you can't create something into existence. Okay. So the boundaries are limitless. Don't limit your mind and go, well, I like to clean the house. What is cleaning the house gonna do for me to make money? Don't think that far right now. Just remember that that's what you love. You might turn around and make your own laundry detergent, and it's the best-selling homemade laundry detergent that is absent chemicals in the world. Don't limit your mind. Just because you like to clean does not mean it cannot be connected to generating revenue. Identify the thing first and then go from there. You remind me of Raven Simone. I used to hear that when I was younger. They said we looked alike. I don't see that we look alike, but I heard it. I definitely heard it when I was younger. I'm going to try and be quiet. Mine too, but it took a village on the internet. Yes, ma'am. That brain creative. Absolutely. For me, it's writing and reading. For me, it's cooking. You're on fire. Absolutely. And I'm telling you, like I said, like how you said, it's reading and writing. So you might be an editor. You might be a publisher. You might become a journalist. There's a lot of ways to read and write and make it your success. Cooking, you may not cook. You may run a restaurant and oversee the chef. You may run a restaurant and teach the chef your best recipes and they keep it going and you just do the business side of the restaurant. You see what I'm saying? So you may develop a recipe, you may develop a sauce that's just booming and retires you. So just because you say cooking or cleaning or reading and writing does not mean it has to look exactly like what you said. The same way that like a lot of times athletes, they say, I'm going to the NFL, I'm going to the NBA, and then they'll get injured. And it's like, uh, what am I going to do now? Whole time their purpose wasn't meant to be an athlete. Their purpose was meant to be a coach. Their purpose was meant to be a athlete's representative, or you know what I mean, their sponsor, or somebody to work alongside this huge conglomerate we call, you know, the NBA or the NFL. You see what I'm saying? Maybe they had to grow up as an athlete to learn the inner workings, but their end goal was to be a coach. Some of these athletes, in their journey to becoming an athlete, they become really efficient when it comes to anatomy and learning how to sculpt the body when it comes to working out. And their lifetime purpose is to be a personal trainer. So you had to go to the NFL, you had to go to the NBA and get injured, because if you didn't get injured, you would have kept going. That's not your end game. Your end game is to be a personal trainer for these athletes, to make sure they're scoped in their body in a healthy enough way to make sure that they're not getting injured on the court, not getting injured on the field. You see what I'm saying? We as individuals get caught up in our vision and we won't see it no other way. So when somebody introduces something into our life, like, man, I ain't trying to do that, I already know what I'm doing. And then the universe has to shut you down. You get injured, you go broke, you fall ill. Those things happen in some regard because you couldn't have been stopped. You wouldn't open your eyes to any other option unless I cut this road off. If I let you continue to be an athlete, you're going to ride that wave till the wheels fall off. That's not what I want. I want you to turn to being a personal trainer. I want you to turn to being a coach so you can come coach these college kids. I want you to turn to, you see what I'm saying? Or, you know, somebody like yourself, you said, working in the medical industry, you know, but you love to cook. If purpose says, if I let you continue working in the medical industry, you're going to ride that until you retire. I need you to teach these people how to cook healthy so they can live longer. How am I going to get you to quit if you're not going to quit by yourself? I have to cut that road off. So understand that even when it comes to the most negative experiences that you could come up with, nothing is happening to you, it's happening for you. And sometimes, even speaking for myself, sometimes we're so driven and so stubborn and so consumed with so much tunnel vision that we refuse to look at any other option. We think we know best. And you don't know best. All you know is your life experience thus far. You have no idea what your life is going to look like around the corner, what your life is going to look like down the road, what the end game. Understand, see, when we're thinking about our vision for ourselves, we're thinking about how that's going to affect us, our husband, our wife, our kids. We're not thinking that your purpose it has everything to do with how you affect the world. We need a ripple effect out here. You see what I'm saying? Like, you're trying to get to this end game because it's going to put you in a good place to get benefits, and then you could get the house you want and marry the person you want. Universe got bigger considerations than that. In order for the master plan to play out, I need Lacey to go teach so we have more free thinking minds and more healed individuals. So when they get married, they can have some healed children. We need Jennifer to go out here and cook so people could be healthy. So when they listen to Lacey and Life Coach, and they can actually put two and two together. You see what I'm saying? But if all these people are focusing on their own individual vision, not what contributes to the whole, we're going to have a problem. So I got to cut Jennifer off from what she's doing right here because she won't let it go. I got to cut Lacey off over here because she won't let this go. I'm trying to tell y'all where I want you, and you're being hard-headed. So I'm going to cut this road off for you. I'm going to cut this road off for you. And you're not going to have any other choice but to listen to me. You're going to find your purpose one way or the other. I've sent people to talk to you. I've made sure that you didn't get the job you wanted. I caused your car to break down. I caused you to get a divorce. I caused you to lose custody of your kids, and you're still doing what you want to do. When are you going to listen to me? I know where I want you at. You're still thinking about yourself. You're still considering yourself. Purpose has everything to do with the world. This is where you leave your mark, where people remember your name. When they put you in the ground, they say, you know what? Jennifer was yada, yada, yada. Lacey taught so many people. She helped me repair my marriage. She helped me do this. If it wasn't for Jennifer, I wouldn't have never lost that weight and been more confident because of her recipes and the way she put herself together in that kitchen. I wouldn't have never talked myself into getting in there and learning how to cook so I could take care of my family the way I see Miss Jennifer do online. See, when we consider purpose, we consider how it's going to serve us. That's why we can chase something that's practical at the time. When we're in our creative juices, that has everything to do with what the seed that was planted when you were born. This has been cultivating your entire life. This has been shaping your entire life. And if you're too blinded by despair and trauma and survival mode and everything else to see it, and the universe is sending you all these people, you should be a life coach. You should be a motivational speaker. You should be a model. These are the directions that you're supposed to go to save lives, to motivate little girls, to influence and inspire people to follow in your footsteps. Perhaps you never left a mark at all in the medical industry. Perhaps nobody ever knew who I was as a hairstylist. They will now, though. You see what I'm saying? And when we think about purpose for the last time, we don't think about how it starts a ripple effect and washes over everybody around us. We think about how it affects us. Universe, your spirit, they're thinking about the whole picture. And it's the whole picture that is going to fulfill you. They have this phrase, and I'm sure you've heard it. If you find something that you love, you will never work a day in your life. You have to remember to look yourself in the mirror and say, I don't want to work. I don't want a job. I want my peace. I want my serenity. I want my solace. I want my fulfillment. I want my replenishment. I want to contribute in a way that inspires, that motivates. Choosing something that's in alignment with your practical mind is not going to get you there. It's going to be short-lived because you're going to go do that thing until it serves the purpose you intended it to serve. Then you're going to start looking around like, well, what do I do now? Bang. It's hard though when you pour so much into a career and then the journey changes. I loved caring for cancer patients and talking with them, being a support for them and trying to cure the cancer, and bang, universe certainly cut mine off one time and I missed the signs. But here's the thing, Jennifer. Here's the crazy thing. Listen to what you said. And I want everybody to observe this before I let this live go. She said, it's hard when you pour so much into a career and then the journey changes. I loved caring for cancer patients and talking with them, being a support for them and trying to cure the cancer, and bang, universe certainly cut mine off one time. Cut mine off on one time. I missed the signs. Jennifer, you didn't miss the thing. You know why? Guess what? Your passion is cooking, honey. Cooking prevents cancer. Did you get cut off or did you get redirected? Because your love, the thing that stands up in the space of purpose, can also contribute to the healing, recovery, manifestation, and prevention of cancer. You can still talk to these people and educate people. What happened was you were in the midst of the initial occurrence and the aftermath with cancer patients. You got cut off from the end game and got put at the front line. Because if you excel and your purpose connected to food, the way you love food, if you love it the way you say you love it, you can prevent people even getting cancer. So they'll never have to be anywhere talking to someone, building a relationship with an individual like you, hoping they make it to the other side. You are not further from helping people with cancer. Your purpose has now shifted from helping people get through cancer to possibly preventing cancer altogether. And if you are passionate about cancer as much as you sound like in what I just read, if you love food, do you know how much herbal remedy and protein and nutrients can help put the body in a state of being able to fight something like that, recover from something like that, and never be exposed to something like that because their body is as healthy as it's supposed to be, because they're eating the right things? Bang, you opened my mind. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You could say that again. You are brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you, Lacey. Yep, my issue is always thinking I'm too old now. Never, Carlene, never. Redirect it. Yes, ma'am. Say that again. So it's like, this is why our minds have to be open. And that's why I say, just because you're working with cancer patients and you can no longer work with them in that way, it does not mean you lost something. You just have to change how you get in the door. And perhaps your purpose was, in fact, connected to cancer, but now you get to use your medical expertise to come back to the drawing board and understand what they're going to go through if they fail with their diet, if they fail with how they prepare their meals. You know what they can endure if they get a cancer diagnosis. So while you're teaching these people how to improve their diet and how they prepare their meals, you can stress the urgency and say, coupling with this recipe right here, you need to talk to Lacey and get your spiritual energy and your mental energy right. You need to talk to such and such over here and make sure you're getting a decent amount of exercise. These three things combined are the best ways to prevent yourself from developing cancer and, autoimmune conditions and depression and anxiety and yada, yada, yada. Like, you have worked in the medical industry, so you understand where people could end up if they let life take hold and they don't prioritize their wellness beforehand. That is your motivation. That is your why. You have been given a tool to use as your rock to say, this is why I cook. This is why I'm passionate about this. I worked in the hospital for XYZ years, and this is what I saw. I was tired of seeing what I can do, or sometimes being helpless in that situation, and I cannot determine the outcome. I need to come back to the front of this so I can set up preventative measures. I needed to get in front of this instead of being at the end of it. So, like we were talking about, as far as me being shaped in my life for preparing to be a life coach, all these interactions through customer service and hair and barbering jobs allowed me to intermingle with other people and learn more about their different walks of life, their troubles, their traumas, their challenges, and so on and so forth, made me proficient in what I do today. The same is true for you. You have the medical experience, prescriptions, the physical therapy, all the demands as to, the observations as to what happens once they hit the hospital. Using what you know and all that experience and putting that together with your affinity for cooking. You can save people's lives with everything that you know. And your experience will say, when somebody's saying like, I could have a little cholesterol. I could do a little extra. You'll say, ma'am, I worked in a hospital with cancer patients for XYZ years. That's never a risk you want to take. And trust me, I know. I chose to work on this end instead of that end because I can't determine the outcome once they get there. Here, I can make a difference. And tell me if they'll cut back on tell them, you know what I mean? If they'll cut back on their high cholesterol and the sugar after you tell them that that's the type of background you have. You've been given a door. You didn't lose anything. This didn't happen to you. It happened for you. And maybe you wouldn't have taken this angle. You would have stuck with being in the medical field if you weren't redirected in the way that you were. There are a lot of athletes, like I said, who didn't prepare. They never thought they'd be a coach. They never thought they'd be a personal trainer. Something had to cut them off first. When you see people, and this is my thing, we talk about a lot of stuff online, negative impacting moments. And for me, when I see things like that, like hard lessons in my mind, I hurt for them because I say to myself, it's a shame that that's what it took to change their direction. Because essentially that's what it is to us, because we don't understand what's happening on the back end. We're like, that's a negative experience. Oh my gosh, he lied to her. This happened. That is so sad. Such and such passed away. But these are monumental learning moments that are changing the trajectory of the person's life that it impacted. These are not just occurrences. You see what I'm saying? And we're so used to life, quote unquote, happening to us. We feel victimized when we see the pain that occurs with other people instead of looking at it for what it is and saying, it sucks that this is how you had to learn that lesson. I'm sorry that this experience right here was what needed to happen to teach you this, because there was a bunch of other ways to learn that lesson. You see what I'm saying? When somebody gets divorced and they have to go through a struggle with fighting for their kids, and we're like, oh my God, she's the devil or he's the devil. Oh my God, I can't believe. And they just trifling. In my mind, I'm sitting in the back end and going to myself like, it's sad. It hurts me that you had to go through this to learn how important it is to choose your partner wisely. Because sometimes it's evident what you're being taught here. You see what I'm saying? So I look at everything as, we can't look at life and say everything happens for a reason, but then when stuff happens, we don't contemplate the reason. Think of yourself, think of your character. Are you stubborn? Are you open? Are you know what I mean? Think of yourself and say to yourself from the outside looking in, if this was my problem with you, how would I stop you? Like if you're a stubborn person and you don't listen to anybody and something just blow up in your face one day, sit back and go, how would I have slowed this person down if their biggest problem is being like when somebody, you have somebody that's very adventurous. They like to jump out of planes and do all this crazy stuff. And you're like, you're going to hurt yourself one day. And then one day they actually hurt themselves, but they survive. The lesson is obvious. Stop toying with your life. And you might not have thought it through, but somewhere in the subconscious, you are daring somebody to snatch your life from you. You keep putting yourself in life-threatening circumstances. And so this person jumped out of a plane and broke both their legs and they barely survived. And people are like, oh my God, it's such a tragedy. No, this person is being taught to stop playing with their life. Stop gambling with the air they breathe. There's things you still need to do here. There's a lesson in all of it, even when it's the most heartbreaking. And we don't want to look at those lessons. So we focus on who to blame, whose fault it is, the rationalizations, and we turn ourselves into victims. But most of this is happening to reshape your character in some way that you probably otherwise would have refused had you not had this experience. And it sucks because it makes you wonder, couldn't I have learned it another way? I mean, it's debatable, but likely not. If this would have been easy for you, you would have brushed it off as just luck and kept it going. It's when you look at it and you go, oh my gosh, I don't have any other option other than to do the one thing I don't want to do. Duh, that was the point. You see what I'm saying? And you won't recognize it until you run into that door. Like, I've been running away from taking this job for 6 months. Now my house is about to get taken. I'm fighting with this, I'm fighting with that. And my only option is to take the very job I said I didn't want. You think that's by accident? Universe is like, oh, you're going to take this job. You're hard headed. What did I say? Like this, that's not accidental. And it's according to your character. When you won't stretch before practice and they keep telling you stretch before practice, stretch before practice, stretch before practice. Like, man, I'm always ready. I'm ready. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. And that one time you go out there to run that sprint and you pull a muscle that knock you out for the whole season, everybody's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It's just terrible. It's so sad. No, your lesson is stretch before you run. You're lucky you just missed the season. You could have lost your entire career. Hopefully, you got humbled in your arrogance in this moment, and now you're going to start listening to your coach. You see what I'm saying? And some people will have a hiccup like that and then keep going and keep going and keep going. And you know what happens? It fast forwards. It went from a strain or a pull of a muscle. Now, you'd have been in a whole car accident and you couldn't run anymore if you wanted to. Because your lesson was to listen to your authority, perhaps, maybe not to stretch per se, but to listen to your coach. So what happens is you keep getting hiccups, things going wrong. And if you blow past it without learning the lesson, that's when the big impacts come, life altering impacts, car accidents, someone passing away. When you start hitting big monumental changes like that, I promise you, if you sit back and look at your life, you've been warned, you've been warned, you've been warned, you've been warned, you've been halted, you've been put on a bench, and you just kept going full-fledged. I know what I'm doing. I know what I want. I know what I'm doing, until you've been rendered in a position you can't even move. And you feel lost. And that's what happens. When people hit rock bottom, they didn't just hit rock bottom, honey. They got knocked down a couple levels a couple times in the last 10 years, I promise, but they hard-headed. So they have to learn through hitting the very bottom. And now you got to pick yourself back up from there. People that understand the lessons and they're trying to learn from their environment, they get a ticket and they step it up. They get reprimanded and they step it up. They get a scare and they step it up. The ones that they hard-headed and they got to learn the hard way, oh, that was just luck. Whoo! Keep being reckless. Oh, that was a close one. Keep being reckless. And they keep being reckless around that lesson, around skipping over their purpose, ignoring what people say, ignoring the cues, ignoring the signs. And then eventually they hit a wall. And the wall looks like changing your trajectory. And it does, like I said, it's a point behind it. Like, mine was multiple sclerosis, and it sucks to say out loud, but the truth is that's just what it was. Aside from my career, my biggest lesson was tending to me and stop sacrificing myself for the people I care about. I was following my mother's footsteps from birth like it was nothing. My mother was an extreme nurturer to the point to where she was self-sacrificing, and she taught me the same thing. By the time I was 20 years old, I didn't even know that I had choices of my own. To me, every choice I made was calculated with somebody else in mind. That was a major problem that needed correction. And because I didn't look out for what I wanted, I would have never found the road that was designed for me, because I based my choices on what everybody else needed. That need to be corrected, including me deciding to be a hairstylist. That wasn't even via my own want. It was a practical decision to serve the people I cared about, self-sacrificing again. And I had so many speed bumps all the way up until prior to me getting MS. I was in the middle of blow drying this lady's hair with the round brush, and I was doing my little thing, doing my thing. And I pulled her hair up for volume, and both my rotator cuffs popped, and the pain shot all the way up my arms. I was out of commission for a month, and I quit doing hair. Like I couldn't lift my arms. I couldn't put my shirt on by myself. I ain't never been in so much pain in my life. I was in my 20s. And I was like, I'm not going back to hair. Cause I'm like, there's no way that my arms are gonna stop working before I have a kid. Like, no. But it took all of that. I one of my schools closed. I got kicked out of one for attendance. My car broke down. I lost my job, and I kept going back to finish. I literally ended up going to 4 different schools just to get my cosmetology license and my barber's license. Something went wrong every time, and I still managed to get both licenses. And on my first job, I snapped my rotator cuffs. And that's when I was like, yeah, I've had enough. I've had enough of getting smacked around. That's it. I got nothing else. And I'm like, it scared me so much because it took me forever to be able to move my arms normal. But I kept getting knocked off the box. I don't know how many times. And I wouldn't take no for an answer. And so even though I didn't pursue hair anymore after I hurt myself, I went to a regular job. I went back to a regular 9-to-5 life. And I got invested to the point to where I was like, yeah, I like this job. I'm retired here, good benefits, just bought me a car, just got my place. I was feeling myself. You by yourself, living your best life. Girl, you doing it big over here. I was feeling myself so vicious. Went to work one day and lost all the feeling in my body. And the minute I couldn't feel my hands, I knew what it was. I just put my head down like, I can't win for losing. I went straight to the hospital. I had to be, restricted from work for a month, bed rest for a month. And I thought my life was over. I'm like, I'm getting ready to follow the path of my mom. Like, I'm getting ready to be stuck in this bed for the rest of my life. I felt depressed and a bunch of other stuff. Had a bunch of spiritual awakenings while I spent my time in bed and a bunch of other stuff. And I felt like everything was over. Everything I worked for is over. But in that place, I found my alignment. In that place, I found where I went wrong. The turns that I made that weren't right. The people that spoke life into me and I argued with them or I pushed them away for one reason or another. And when I stepped into my recovery for this condition, I knew exactly who I wanted to be. I didn't sacrifice myself anymore. And I fell right on time with my purpose. But it took a hell of a beat down to get here. And I didn't know I was getting beat down half the time. So I'm not just a person speaking that it really works this way. Like, I didn't piece all of that together until I was already here starting to teach already. So it's a real thing, and it's more to life than just buying things and, spending all your money and all this craziness. You see what I'm saying? Like, purpose is a real thing. It's a word we use, but it's a real thing. And it's not about you. It's about how you contribute, how you deposit back into the world you were born into. And that's bigger than you. It's bigger than your marriage. It's bigger than your kids. This is a contribution to put back into the world that sponsored you to get here, carried you to get here, gave you all this experience to be successful and excel here. So it has to be bigger than just the basic, this is just what I want to do because I like it. Passion has to exist there. It has to be the air you breathe and your heartbeat and your tears and your sweat and how you demonstrate to your children what it means to succeed. This has to be intertwined with your identity and your morals and values and your character. Purpose is a heck of a lot more than something so simple than just picking something. Purpose is in your veins, and you're not going to find it guessing. It's been with you the entire time, but you never looked at it as something that could save your life or retire you. It's there. I promise you it's there. I appreciate you guys for chatting it up with me. I went 35 minutes over. This was a wonderful conversation. I'm going to read the last of these comments really quick. Speaking to my soul. Hello, cyber family. Hope you're having a blessed night. Hello, Miss Lisa. What's going on, Miss Seasoned? What's going on? Oh no, that's Jennifer. I'm sorry, I said hello already. Hello, Kay. Hello, Rosemary. That comes from stress. I just realized while you spoke on multiple sclerosis that I may suffer from it too, because my hands tend to clench up and get stuck. Yeah, I mean, and I doubt it's MS. You can also have that from as far as the hands getting stuck. If you did a lot of activity where you open and close your hands, they can get stuck from, because I actually have that from my braiding years, and I had that long before my diagnosis. But you can get that like arthritis or carpal tunnel. One of those two can also develop the locking joints too. So I wouldn't go as far as MS unless you have other symptoms, but likely carpal tunnel or arthritis in your hands, wrists, or fingers. So I would check that out for sure. And you're very welcome. This was a wonderful conversation. I appreciate you guys for being present. Even though we didn't have a lot of questions, the questions were so profound. It gave us a lot to discuss, or gave me a lot to discuss. And I appreciate all you guys' feedback. Again, hit the notification button for our next live. We will be going live more often, as early as week after next. So I'm excited to see what unfolds. Thank you guys so much for participating in the conversations and so much support. I had a lot of familiar faces today, so I appreciate you guys being here. And someone was asking, Kay, please go to the beginning. We had a really dope conversation. You came in like right at the end. You guys remember to acknowledge, to evolve, and to grow. And I appreciate you guys. That was what stuck out, the tremors as well. Okay, yeah. Well, in that case, if you definitely have tremors as well, it's something to look into, because the shaking and the lack of control over your muscles is definitely a symptom of MS as well. So it couldn't hurt to get checked out. You'll likely probably have to have a spinal tap and an MRI to confirm. Nothing too painful, or they should be able to let you know via one of those tests, if not confirm via both. You guys have a wonderful night, and I certainly hope not, Kanya, but if that is the case, it is definitely, times have changed. I had a lot of fear in relationship with the condition because of my mom's experience, but she had a lot less disease modifying a therapy accessible to her when she was diagnosed, as opposed to when I got diagnosed. So there was a lot more accessible to me. And even though my first 2 years were really, really rough, once I got in the swing of things, I'm doing it holds me back a lot less than what it once did early on. So it's manageable. Thank you, Jennifer. You have a wonderful night as well. And I appreciate you for bringing your conversation to the platform. I'm sure a lot of people needed this conversation as well. I'm good. Thank you. I don't worry about it. I pray you no longer worry about it. Your mom will be back here soon. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Oh, okay, you guys. Beautiful, beautiful conversation. I will be back again. What's today's Friday? I might be back between tomorrow and Sunday, but I will definitely post to let you guys know ahead of time. You guys have a wonderful night. Kiss the babies, and I will talk to you guys soon. I believe oh my goodness, I was like, don't challenge me like that. I have never even, I'm not gonna mess up that word. I appreciate that. You take care as well. Um, hello, Sanita. Welcome. Please, if you have the time, go back to the beginning of the live to listen to our conversation. We're just wrapping it up, but welcome. I hope you enjoy the space and the people. Thank you, and you guys have a wonderful night. Peace.